So I think we have figured out a new dagger spam equivalent for secondary marshals running Derv type builds, and that is Rending Aura, Chilling Victory, Pious Assault. I would argue this is pretty close to a dagger spam equivalence that we can have. The big advantage of this versus dagger spam is if things are balled up, you have huge spike potential, whereas with dagger spam, if you aren't running Splinter Weapon, or if you are running Splinter Weapon, your damage is mostly single target, with Death Blossom being your adjacent damage, whereas with Scythe, Pious Assault and Chilling have huge nuke potential if things are in 2 to 3 ball, like if they're close to each other so that you multi-hit. So let's actually check this out. All of these heroes are on flee, so they're not going to do anything. Okay, let's test this thing on the Master of Damage. So we have Heroic Refrain, we have There's Nothing to Fear, our energy management comes from Go for the Eyes, and High Leadership. We do have 16 Scythe, even though we are Paragon because of Heroic Refrain. So the build basically just loops through like this. It's pretty chill. Now obviously, you want to make sure you can use Heroic Refrain. And with Splinter Weapon, you're going to be dealing more damage. So that's really the big draw, is if you were to run Splinter. But you see that big spike there? That's really where a build like this excels, is when enemies are even semi-balled up. You also are giving yourself slight crit. 53% chance is pretty good, in addition to the rest of your team. Let's just do one more. Alright, let's see. Alright, so we average 61 DPS, which is decent. It's not carrying the team, but you also have to consider we're bringing There's Nothing to Fear, HR on our entire team, which boosts our entire team's damage and effectiveness. We have They're on Fire, which we could combo into, so I'll post a variant that drops Chilling Victory. There's actually 2 variants that I'm going to show. And then, of course, Rending Aura can be kind of expensive. For the Scythe I'm running Soul Reaping, which isn't really factoring in because Master of Damage does not die. So if you run Soul Reaping, you can easily spam. Like, Soul Reaping is fine, Mysticism is fine. One thing to keep note of, though, is Aggressive Refrain is knocking your armor down to 60. So you're not as tanky as you might be used to being, but you do have There's Nothing to Fear. So if you have a Soul Twisting Writ and you're running this, you have 35% damage reduction for like 14 seconds with Heroic Refrain up. And then if you run Burn, you can get this up to 45% if you cast Heroic Refrain on yourself twice. So 45% damage reduction versus burning. So we'll show the burning variants now. Here's a demo of a tankier version without increased attack speed, so you don't lose armor. So as shouts end on you, you inflict burn. And even without the increased attack speed, you can still deal pretty good damage and pretty big burst. So it's much safer, plus the burn combo. This is probably the most stable version of this build, because you have the burn on shout end, as well as pretty huge damage reduction from both of these, and you don't lose armor. I could also run Mysticism 5 if you really wanted to, but you can see how my energy is spiking up from the Soul Reaping mod here. So let's just kind of attack some stuff. Now, another thing to consider too is if you run cons, you do attack 20% faster. So it's not really clear if you're using cons that you even need increased attack speed. So that's another thing to consider if you always use cons. So you'll still be attacking and moving faster and everything. So here is the burning variant. Essentially every time shout or chant ends on you, you inflict burn. It actually lasts for like 9 seconds, which is crazy. So burn on adjacent, which allows you to tank. So between There's Nothing to Fear, They're on Fire, and Blazing, this allows you to tank. You still have huge burst on Pious, which can be used every 4 seconds. So you precast Rending Aura, you tear down, you recast Rending Aura, and then after 4 seconds you tear down again. With Splinter Weapon versus Bald, this is a huge nuke that'll deal quite a lot of damage, and will generally take like half of an entire group of adjacent enemy health bar down to like half or so. But it's pretty fun, it's pretty decent, similar to the Dagger Spam Heroic Refrain build. It has decent energy management, just with spamming Go for the Eyes, because at 20 leadership you gain 10 energy back, which completely fuels Rending Aura. And as you're killing things with Soul Reaping, you'll easily get all that energy back as well. But that is pretty much it for this one. Just another fun build for Paragon. Is this the best build for Paragon? Definitely not, but it's pretty fun, and it's definitely viable in hard mode. I don't think it would be viable in elite missions unless you really know what you're doing, but outside of that, for general hard mode, it's more than good enough. Alright, that's all for now. Peace.